Ladies and gentlemen, today is November 25th, and your learning goals are to practice solving equations with triangle mid-segments. We're going to take a look at triangle mid-segments today. As far as geometry land goes, they're kind of cool. They do some cool things with triangles. Okay, not cool like it's snowing cool, but cool like geometry cool. So I find them interesting. So anyways. We're also going to continue to work through the isosceles triangle base angle theorem. We might basically review for our test a little bit today too. You've got one chance to do a test prep question today as well. So you should expect to know what a mid-segment is quite well by the time you're done today. You should also expect to be working on your foldable today. We will start a new Unit 5 foldable as well.
Are you going to help us with it, or do we?
We're starting the weaning process. So
Snow, maybe so.
I will help you, yes. Not as much as I have in the past, though.
Okay.
That's a great question, Scott.
25, I'm not 25, 30.
All right, I need your attention again, please. I need your attention again, please. As we think a little bit bigger than ourselves, good job, ladies. You're already on top of things. All right. So as we think a little bit bigger than ourselves, by the way, I would like to do a thank you note to the maintenance person who fixed our beloved heater for us. If you've noticed, it's much warmer in here. It's actually shooting out warm air. I know, right? He spent a lot of time helping us. So tomorrow, if I forget, will you remind me? I'm going to get one of my cards out of the drawer and we'll write him a little note of thanks. Because definitely on one of the coldest days of the school year, our heater finally works, and I'm thankful for that. So, I did, but I'm okay with it, as long as I can play with it. Anyways, another chance to think a little bit bigger. Got this email from Mr. Beckman this weekend. Wanted to share it with you guys. All right, so you guys can see this. This is from him. All right, he's just talking a little bit more about the turkey run. I've been mentioning it to you guys for the last week or two here. So for the past 25 years, he says up there, we've worked with the Salvation Army to provide a traditional Thanksgiving dinner to people in our community that without this support would not necessarily have this meal. And so we've talked about this and some opportunities. I just want to give you details here. So we're going to prepare over 2,500 meals to pass out to people on Thursday. And so there's really 3 opportunities for you to come in and help. Personally, I think Tuesday is probably the easiest way for you guys to come on in and help, especially if you don't have a car. Tuesday in the cafeteria, right as soon as school is out, they will start to do setup, tables, chairs, serving lines, that kind of stuff right after school at 2:45. And that'll go until about 4:30 is what he's got up there. They'll be bagging rolls. They've got like 5,000 rolls, and so those will have to go in different bags because they're not just going to hand out rolls to everybody individually. So that's an opportunity for you guys to come in and do that, real tangible way to help out. If you are a driver or if you have access to come back to school, Wednesday they're going to be preparing, like doing some cooking. So if you'd like to help out with the cooking, Wednesday is a great day for you to do that. Green beans, gravy, turkey, and then a little bit of packing. And that looks like it's from about 10 to 1. And then on Thursday morning, and that starts at about 9:30 and goes till 12:30, they'll actually be putting the meals together. So they'll finish some cookings and heating things up, and they'll actually be putting them in packaging, and then they'll be doing delivery. So, and delivery, that's what I did when I was in high school. And I've said this before, it was just really cool, you know, to hop in the car with a friend of mine and take off Thanksgiving morning, and to be able to deliver these meals to people. And now that you guys have directions and map on your cell phones, it makes it easier. I was sent out with a map into Muskegon and had no idea where I was going. But anyways, it was just really cool. I really enjoyed being able to do this when I was in high school. I think that you guys would too. If you have a family where like you're kind of like a loner Muskegon family, your family's far away, you're not going anywhere, this might be a cool opportunity for you guys to do something with your families, right? Dare I say you spend time with them together, right? You know, and grab your mom and your dad and your brother or your sister and hop in the car, and maybe you guys can all do this on Thanksgiving morning if you don't have big, humongous plans on Thanksgiving. Maybe instead of going to the movies, you guys could do this together. I don't know, might be something fun. Just thought I'd let you know. I think if you're going to do delivery, though, you do need to sign up for that. So I would either email Mr. Beckman or talk to Mrs. Milder. Those would be your 2 contact people. Any questions about the turkey run? I'll be honest, this is about all the information I have. Would you like me to post this on my blog? I can put this up on the blog.
Yeah.
warm-up question for today. Actually, our test prep question. Last day right before the test. So here's what I want you guys to do. It's not huge, but I want you to look through so leave your proofs out. I'm going to come check those in a second. But take a minute, look through your practice test. If there's one or two questions you just think are particularly difficult, or you think that your neighbor or somebody in a different hour might have trouble on, I want you just to take a minute to look over that question, and then make sure your neighbor knows how to do it. Explain it to your neighbor. By the way, this is going to be more helpful to you than it will be to your neighbor, but that's okay, because it still gives you guys a chance to reflect and study. So it'll probably take me a couple minutes to come around and check homework, so while I'm doing that, this is what I want you to do. So listen, my expectation is that your practice test is out. You're taking a minute or two to look through it. You pick a question that you think is particularly difficult, and then you talk with your neighbor about that question. Okay? Questions, comments, concerns? All right, awesome. Ready, set, go. Don't forget to have your proofs out for me to check, please. Go. Ladies and gentlemen, I need your attention, please. Thank you. I need everybody's attention, please. So, stop talking. Thank you for choosing not to talk while I'm talking. Okay, so we are going to be using our new foldables and new notes today. So you have your new notes out on your desk, please, and your new foldable out, and we will be adding to your foldable as we go through our notes today. All right, so grab those notes out, please. All right, I need your attention again, please. All right, the very first thing I want you guys to do today, I told you we're going to talk about slope and we're going to talk about mid-segments. That was what we talked about a little bit in our learning goals for today. And so just a quick review of slope. What I want you guys to do really quick, because sometimes I think that I tell you too much. You need to read things every once in a while. Will you please take 30 seconds, and I want you to read that box on the top of your paper. So there's a bunch of words up there that are a little darker than the rest of the words. I will give you time to work on your foldables, so just kind of put them to the side for a second. And then what I want you guys to do right now, every single person in this room, that means all of you, you're going to read that information right there at the top of your notes. Every single person right now is going to stop what they're doing and read the information on the very top of their notes, right? Yes, Mrs. Stapel, so I'm not holding scissors, I am not holding a pencil, I'm not writing, all I'm doing is reading. Ready? Go. Reading right on the top of your notes, right now. Every single person. So one of the things I wanted you guys to remember about two lines that are parallel, look up here. If I have two lines that are parallel, what would I say about how they slant? Would they be the same or different?
They're parallel.
They're always going to slant the same way, okay? Because as soon as one of them doesn't slant the same way, then they're not parallel anymore, okay? So no matter what, as long as my two lines slant the same direction, they're always going to be parallel. And in geometry land, what's that fancy word we use for the word slant? Slope. Okay, good. And so we're going to pull out that word slope that we learned about it a little bit in algebra land. Now we're going to talk about it in geometry land a little bit as well. And so again, two lines that are parallel will always end up having the same slant to them because they're parallel. I think somebody said that a second ago. Well, they're parallel. Of course they're going to have the same slant to them. So really quick on your paper, you just draw two parallel lines right at the very top of your paper. Very top of your paper, just draw two parallel lines. On the very top of your paper, draw two parallel lines. And they might not be perfect, but how do you know they're parallel?
They're right next to each other.
Yeah, they're right next to each other. They're slanting the same way. Okay, good answers. Okay, good. And so when I draw these two parallel lines, will they always have the same slopes? Yeah. Yep, they're always going to slant the same direction. Okay, good. All right, the next thing I want you guys to learn, and the reason we're doing a little bit of slope review here is because the very first question on your next text, so not the test you're taking tomorrow, but your Unit 5 test, which you will take before Christmas, by the way, it's going to ask you to prove that two lines in a mid-segment are parallel to one another. And so you've got to have some good evidence behind it. One of the ways that we're going to do that is because we'll have 2 points on the test, and then we're going to have to actually calculate their slopes and prove that they're the same slopes in order to be able to say that they're parallel to each other. So a couple different things I want to remind you of, and you guys have done this before, but I just wanted to go over it with you one more time. So you're looking at me. Thanks. All right. When we have 2 points, I like to call them x1 and y1, and then x2 and y2. So basically I'm just saying, hey, here's my first point, x and y, my first x and y. Here's my second x and y, and this is the formula I'm going to put them into. So remember back to a couple months ago, we did midpoint and we did distance, and you guys all ended up doing really, really well in that section, but when you first took it, some of you missed that section because you got your numbers written backwards. Kind of maybe don't have to say it out loud, but remember in your head when that happened. Okay, so here's what I want to remind you guys of. If you take the 3 seconds, it's like an extra 3 seconds, to come up to your point. So we're going to calculate the slope that goes through these 2 points. And you just say, hey, this is my first point, so I'm going to label him x1 and y1. And this is my second point, so I'm just going to label him x2 and y2. That extra 3 seconds really, truly will help make the difference between getting a question right or wrong. I get my numbers backwards all the time, especially when they're in formulas, like a slope formula, okay? And so this really helps me. I think it'll really help you too. All right, and we're going to plug that into the slope formula, and we're going to calculate the slope of that line. We're going to figure out how slanted is that line. Mental high five. Anybody remember what letter we use for slope? It's not an S. M. Very good. All right. I know it doesn't make any sense. I know. Yep. M is the letter that we use for slope. And then we're going to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. It's a lot like midpoint and distance where we got to use all those different letters. That's why we're going to write it down to remember it. So I will label my points. Pardon? We will put this in our folder. I just wanted to practice it first before we did. Good question. All right, so y2 is 9 minus y1, 4. And I already saw most of you have this done on your paper already, so that's good. -6 minus -3. Oh no, it's a negative. Positive. It's going to be a positive. Good job. Hey, just don't not write it down, though. Don't go, oh, I can't have 2 negatives next to each other. No, it's okay if that's what it says. That's what you should write down. And then, yeah, just like Jordan said, yeah, they just make a positive. All right. So 9 versus 5, and -6 plus 3 gives me -3. And so that's my slope, 5 over -3. So I go up 5, backwards 3, up 5, backwards 3. Oh my gosh, have you ever heard of rise over run? Yeah. Oh, that's what this is, okay? Up 5, and then I run backwards 3, and then I go up 5, and then I run backwards 3, so rise over run. Good job, you guys. So you have seen this before, I knew that. All right, it is roll time. All right, I put this in the top left-hand corner of my foldable. Let me show you what I've got here. So here's what my foldable looks like. I'm going to be honest. This is a new chapter for me last year. Like I haven't taught this chapter before. And there was like a lot of words I wasn't super familiar with. I used my foldable a whole lot last year, even when I was teaching it, because there's a lot of words that I kept forgetting, and I wanted to make sure, of course, that I was telling you the right words. And so my foldable was really, really helpful to me last year. Also, since this was a new chapter for me, one of the things I did was I put the lesson up in the corner where the word came from. So like slope was in lesson 5-1. So up in that top right hand or top left hand corner, I just wrote a 5-1 to remind myself that that's where that word came from. So I know in the past I have given you almost all the information that goes in your fold book. I put it under the document camera, we'd walk around and fill them out, something. I'm going to start to wean you off of me and the foldables, okay? No, it's okay. You're going to be fine, Skylar, I promise, okay? I think these are really, really useful. I'm going to continue to let you use them on your tests, but, okay, some of you are leaving next semester, and all of you guys are leaving next year, and so I want you guys to have the skills to be able to make these on your own, because they are really helpful. I think, and I haven't asked every single person, but I think most people, I haven't taken a grade on them, and yet you still choose to make them. So to me, that says that they're useful to you. So I want you to start to learn, well, what's important? What should go in my foldable? I'll give you some structure here in Unit 5, and then next unit, I won't even tell you. You'll just make them on your own. You're going to do great. I know you will. So for today, the first word I would add to my foldable today is the word slope. And if I were you, I'd put it in the top left-hand corner, but it's your foldable. You can do whatever you want with it. So I have the word slope in there. I'm going to be honest, I don't think the definition of slope would be particularly useful to me, but since I'm going to have to prove that two lines are parallel to each other, I think that would probably be pretty helpful to me. And, oh yeah, remembering that would probably be really helpful. And then how I label my points, that would also probably be pretty helpful. And again, I've told you this 100 times, I really like pictures, so I'd probably draw a picture of two parallel lines in there as well. It's your foldable. You get to fill it out how you want. There's some great information that you already read in your paragraph out there. Again, I highlighted what I would put in my foldable. I probably wouldn't write it word for word. That's a lot of words. So I would use my own words if I were you. Okay, you have 2 minutes to fill out your foldable. Ready? Go. Okay for you to peek at your neighbor's foldable. That would be totally okay. I mean, as long as they were okay with it, that'd be fine with me. All right, 30 seconds. You got about 30 seconds to finish filling that out. Whenever you want to make it beautiful, you have plenty of time later to make your foldable beautiful. All right, I have something cool to show you. I'm excited. Sometimes in math land, sometimes in geometry land, things just turn out kind of cool, and I wanted to show you what I mean by that. Okay, so this is really just kind of a listening and watching thing, which sometimes is not as easy as just writing. So what I want you to do, you've got a slope filled out. If you need to, you can go back and put that in your foldable. All the information's right on the top of your notes. What I want you guys to do right now is put your writing utensils down. Okay? So writing utensils are down. Okay?
Sorry.
Thank you. All right, and I just want you guys to listen and watch what's happening up on the board. There's not a lot to write down. If you listen and watch, and you're going to talk to your neighbors a little bit, then you'll be able to take that information and put it in your foldable in a few minutes. But so, ready? No writing utensils, right? Can you write right now? No writing right now. Okay, just listening. Here's our word. You ready? It is the word mid-segment. Mid-segment. I said the word mid-segment. What pops into your head? Mid. What's mid talk about? Middle. Okay, and segment? It's a line, right? A segment, right? Okay, so it's a middle segment. What other big word do we talk about a lot in geometry that kind of pops into your head when you hear the word mid-segment? Midpoint, right? Okay, good. So in that, hey, remember we've talked about making new neural pathways in your brain, new stuff connected to old stuff? When you connect the word mid-segment in your head to the word midpoint that's already there, it's going to start to take little pieces of information. It's going to connect the dots in your brain. You're going to have to remember it a little bit better, okay? So yeah, the word midpoint really does come to mind when we have the word mid-segment. Not only because of the word mid, but because they actually have a lot to do with each other. So quick review, what is midpoint due to a line? And it gives me? Two equal parts. Oh, you guys are fantastic. I love it when you learn things. Okay, all right, so looking up at the board, right? No writing, just watching. You watching? Okay, so here's what I have here. If I have a mid-segment, what I'm really doing then is I'm looking at the midpoint of one side, and I'm looking at the midpoint of the other side, and I'm connecting those midpoints with a segment, right? Exactly. I know. Look, okay, so not only do the words sound alike, but they really have a lot to do with one another. So listen one more time. Listening. I'm going to take the midpoint of one side. I'm going to take the midpoint of the other side, and I'm going to connect those guys with a mid-segment. So the mid-segment connects the midpoints of two sides of a triangle. I feel like I did a pretty good job explaining that. However, you can probably do a better job than I can. So when I say go, I want you to then explain to your neighbor, what is a mid-segment? How do I know where it is on a triangle? Ready? Oh, wait. I'm going to call on 3 people to give an answer. So I just want to make sure that everybody in the room has an answer for what a mid-segment is, because I'm going to randomly call on 3 people. I would hate for you to not have an answer. Ready? Go.
That is like my biggest pet. Just get another chair, please.
I tried to do that.
Okay, you can sit at a different desk together. I promise.
Okay.
Just don't make that noise.
I'll sit completely still.
On the stage.
All right, don't forget that I will be calling on 3 people, so make sure you know what a mid-segment is. You got about 10 more seconds. Make sure your neighbor knows what a mid-segment is.
It's connected to this one and inside of a triangle. Connects the midpoint.
Oh, magic speed chart. Call on Friday. Chandler. Oh, really? That's where I landed, right?
That was so close.
Chandler, what is the mid-segment of a triangle?
2 dots on the side of the triangle, which is a line on between them.
What is special about those 2 dots?
They're in the middle.
They're in the middle. What do we call the middle of the line? The midpoint. Good job. So Chandler, I heard Chandler say that a mid-segment connects the 2 midpoints of the sides of the triangle. Very good. All right, who else am I going to call on? Jaeger. What is the mid-segment of a triangle?
It is connecting
of two sides of a triangle. Good job. Connecting two midpoints of two sides of a triangle. Very good. And last but not least, Jasmine, what is the midsegment of a triangle? And I connect them with a segment. Good job, you guys. Those are awesome answers. I'm glad that you guys took a minute to do that. So, on mid-segment then, and we will add to our foldable, but just stay paused for a second on the writing part. Okay, mid-segment then takes the midpoints of two sides and connects them with a segment. So mid-segment has to do with midpoint. Good. All right, let's take a look at this theorem here. I know theorems, right? They're so super interesting. Oops, not that.
That kind of spirit is
And move. There we go. All right, I have something to show you. Are you ready? You're going to look up at the board, please. We will fill it out in your foldable. I want to get done explaining it first. Okay? Mid-segments are really important. They do cool things. So not only, pause and look at me, please. Thank you. All right, so not only do mid-segments connect the midpoints of the side of the triangle, but they do some kind of cool things. And the thing about this is that it is true for every single type of triangle ever made. It's true for scalene, isosceles, equilateral triangles. It's true for big triangles. It's true for little itty-bitty triangles. Okay? So it's true for all triangles. I want you to see something. Eyes up front. Right? You're not touching anything. No pencils or pens or scissors, Sam. Okay? All right, look. Here's my mid-segment. Right? He connects the midpoints of two sides of my triangle. If I were to look at him and say how he compares to that blue side, do you think that these two lines would ever touch?
No.
The red and the blue lines, they would never touch? And when lines never touch, what do we tend to call them? So if I drew that mid-segment, do you think he'll always be parallel to the third side?
Yeah.
He will. Okay, that's a really great observation, okay? And I think that's kind of cool. Sometimes in geometry land, things just turn out to be a little cool, and this is one of those things. No matter how big or small those triangles are, isosceles, equilateral, scalene, doesn't matter. That red line will always be parallel to the third side it's not touching, okay? And so that's one of the cool things about a mid-segment. He'll always be parallel to the blue line, okay? One other thing, are you ready? This is cool, are you watching? Guess how big he is compared to the blue line? It's half, okay? I know. Isn't that cool? Every single time, it just works out that way. But guess what? He's connecting the halfway points on two sides of a triangle. So I guess it kind of makes sense that he would be half the size of the third side. Okay, and we're going to see how cool this gets in just a second.
Oh my goodness gracious.
I know, it gets cooler. Can you only imagine it gets cooler? All right, and so those are two really big important things. All right, and I'm going to write this down on my paper because it says it right here. So I would write down then that DE, ooh, look at you can use your pencils now, is parallel to AB, and DE is also half the size of AB. So he's parallel and he's also half the size. So go ahead and pick up those writing utensils. So we're going to write a few things down. All right, you just learned two new things about a mid-segment. When I say go, will you please tell your neighbor, what are those two new things you just learned about a mid-segment? Talk to your neighbor. Ready? Go. Okay, hint, clue. If I were to add something to my foldable in the top right-hand corner, if I was going to add something to my foldable in the top right-hand corner from lesson 5.1, I might want to add the mid-segment triangle, or the triangle mid-segment theorem to my foldable. I might want to do that right now. You can add it anywhere you want in your foldable. I put mine in the top right-hand corner, but it doesn't really matter. It's your foldable. if I were making a full bow right now, hint, 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 clue, 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 nudge, nudge, wink, wink, okay, I would probably draw that picture, because you guys know how much I love pictures. Okay. I mention it probably every single day. So I would probably draw that picture, and then I would definitely tell me what I know about a mid-segment. So he's parallel to the third side, and he's half the size of the third side. I would definitely do both of those things in my full bow. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Sometimes I used to do a band. Like it depends on what band you're in. You can go to different hours. Sometimes it's just a random switch. Like it might be for a different hour. There was an issue. You need to figure it out. But it just happens. Yep, could be your electives. Get a chance to see a different picture.
What should we?
If I were Chandler, if I were putting this in my notebook, I would probably write down the word mid-segment theory. Right? I would probably remind myself that it came in lesson 5.1. Again, I really like this picture, and I really like those words.
What words do you like, Miss Stapel?
Honestly, like I said, I think this is better than the definition. I mean, I think you're probably going to remember what the mid-segment is, but yeah, or you can write this down and say connects the side. And then I like this because it gives me some points and then it gives me letters and numbers. So it's up to you. Be a good summarizer. Oh, look at you summarizing and note-taking. So excited.
So excited. What?
Geometry land is the place to be.
It's a pretzel.
Say that louder.
Geometry land is the.
Thanks, Jim.
I'll try again.
Appreciate your effort.
Geometry is the place to be.
Geometry land is the place to be.
There it is. All right, 30 seconds. 30 seconds left on
I
there.
pulled a
I totally forgot that.
See, you said you weren't going to forget.
I saw my face on it. I put my face ready. When I was over there, I was like,
All right, 30 seconds. 30 seconds. 30 seconds is all done. All right, cool. Let's do this last thing for today. Yep. You can always go back and get it off your paper, right? Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, pencils down, eyes forward, please. Pencils down, eyes forward, please. Thank you. Pencils down, eyes forward. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, a few other things I wanted to show you guys up here. We're going to look at, Jordan, right here. Thank you. All right, we're going to look at this bottom picture. And we're going to draw in some lines and kind of talk about them together. So I need you guys to talk to me and talk to your neighbors as we go through this, okay? So the first line I want to look at is line SR. Take a wild guess what these little dots are in the middle here. Yeah, they're midpoints. Okay, good. And what does the midpoint do to a line again? Parts. Okay, yep, we got it, right? All right. So I've got a midpoint right here. So I've got my 3 midpoints right there. Okay, let's look at SR. Ooh, Trevor, bad idea. Thank you. Yes, thanks for not doing that. Thank you. Okay. Back, attention up here on me. Thanks. All right, so looking at SR, tell your neighbor what's one thing you know about SR. Oh, pause for just a second. Sometimes I have trouble seeing what sides are parallel to each other, especially when there's like a big picture. Can I show you a trick? Sam, I'm going to show you a trick. It's a really simple little thing, right? So I'll put my finger right on the mid-segment, and then I just go over to the side he's not touching, and that tells me, oh, he's parallel to this side. So it's that side right there that I'm comparing it to. I don't know, it helps me to keep track of who goes with it. So, don't shut up. Thank you. So, with your neighbor, will you tell your neighbor 2 things you know about SR as he compares to AC? What are 2 things you know about SR as he compares to AC? Tell your neighbor. Ready? Go. Exactly. He's half of that, and he's parallel to it. Okay. Are you ready? I'm going to give you some interesting information. Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me.
I'm so tired.
Defend my claim that SR and AT are the same length. Wait, pause. I want you to think about it a second. So you give evidence to your neighbor about what I'm saying is true. Defend my claim that SR and AT are the same length. Ready? Go. Ladies and gentlemen, would anybody like to share what they heard somebody say about this? Skylar, you seem super excited. Would you like to share? I can't hear Skylar. Quiet, please.
Because of the mixed segment theorem, the mixed segment side is half of the third side of the triangle.
So he's half the third side, and it's the midpoint, so he's also got to be half. All right, excellent. Good job, you guys. Gentlemen, I need your attention, please. Hey, boys, I need your attention, please. Thank you. All right, in your notebooks for today, today is... Oh, I forgot to have to talk to you.
Oh no.
It's not a bad talk. It's not the talk, don't worry.
That's weird.
I can have the talk with you if you really want.
No.
What?
All right, I do need your attention though, please. Thank you. You can write down your learning goals while I talk to you about this. Hey, are you aware that it is 15 school days until Christmas break?
You realize that it's 3 days before, right?
15 school days until Christmas break. That's awesome. But here's what I want you guys to really be aware of, and this applies to obviously all of your classes, not just this class. So we got our 15 school days until Christmas break. We're all excited about that. We got some stuff that needs to get taken care of before we can make it through those 15 days. But I want you to realize this. You go and you have awesome 2 weeks of Christmas break, and then you come back and we have a week of school, so 5 school days, and then that next week is exams.
Yeah.
So it happens really, really, really fast. And people come back from Christmas and they're like, like freaked out because they didn't realize they have 7 days after Christmas until they take their exams. Okay, so it happens super, super fast. So we'll have a Monday to Friday, and then we'll have a Monday, Tuesday, and then we have exams day. Okay? And so I just want you to realize you have 22 school days, including today, until your final exams.
Mid-exams.
No, these are not midterm exams. These are they're semester exams, first semester exam. I don't know. In college, they have midterms like halfway through a semester, so it's kind of hard to describe.
Also like every marking period?
Yeah, but I don't know. Anyway, so it's your semester, it's your final exam, first semester, will come about, and you guys, it's going to look just like your tests. So it's going to be chapters 1 through 6, kind of all smushed together onto a test. Some of the questions are going to look really familiar. Some of them will ask you a little bit more about something. I'm not going to put like the super duper easy questions on there. It'll be more like the thinking distributor practice questions that'll end up on your test. But I'm going to be honest, you guys do the best on your distributor practice section of your test. Every single time, that's the best section of your test.
That's the only section I failed.
Yeah, sometimes. So if you think of it as like a whole bunch of distributor practice sections all squished together, that's kind of what your exam will take. And you'll have a practice exam, and if you want that before Christmas, I can give it to you before Christmas. And so really, you have a lot of options. You're going to be okay, I promise. Okay. One thing I do want to remind you though is just make sure that your grades are doing really good before you get to that point, okay? If you're sitting nicely at a nice B, or even better yet, at a really nice A, you have no worries. You study, you get an A or a B on your exam, life is fine, you will walk out of the door with an A or a B just like you do on every test, and you'll be great, okay? If in your English class you're missing a paper or two, okay? Or in science, you've got to turn in some homework. Just, make sure you get all that stuff done before you leave for Christmas. When you go to Christmas break, you should be able to walk onto Christmas break with not a care in the world because you are all caught up, life is fantastic, and you've got everything taken care of. I just had a conversation last hour with a senior, and I said to the senior, I said, it's kind of hard to do an entire 4 years worth of high school in 1 year. Because he's like, well, I got to make up this semester of English 9, I got to make up this semester of English 10, and then I got to make up a geometry credit, and I got to make up this, and he wants to graduate this spring. Okay? Missing your credits is not easy. So let's make sure that we're all caught up, things are looking good. If you need anything from me, please let me know. I will help any way I can with any of your classes. You just have to ask. Okay, so today our learning goals are to practice solving with triangle mid-segments. We're going to go through that again today. And then we're going to talk about how to move lines to be parallel. You guys, Unit 5 is going to go really, really fast. Hey, listen, next Monday, I'm going to hand out the practice test for this unit. And next Friday, you're going to take this test. It's a short unit, it moves really fast, and half of it's drawing. I think there are sections that are easier and sections that are a little harder. We're going to take a look at one of the harder questions today in a while. So, I think you guys are doing pretty good. All right, please take 1 minute. Oh, I have something to share with you. By the way, did you know that they made 2,900 Thanksgiving meals this year instead of 2,500? That was pretty awesome. We got some good thank you notes today in my email, so I thought it was pretty cool. Thank you for those of you who went and helped out. I know that was really appreciated. Had a great opportunity this weekend to catch up with an old student of mine who is in school away at college right now. Great time, a great reminder that it's pretty easy to sit down and have coffee with somebody and be an encouragement to someone. And so I thought that was a great way to touch base, and I had a good time doing it. Like, I enjoyed those conversations, and I think you guys do too. But it is pretty easy to sit down for coffee and encourage somebody and be an encouragement. So I want you guys to think about that a little bit. Okay, so we have a test question up here on the board. I wanted to go through it with you guys a little bit step by step and really focus on some of the stuff that we talked about last week in terms of mid-segments. And so the very, very first thing I want you guys to do is use those reading strategies we've been talking about. So in your foldable, right now, all by your lonesome, nice and quietly, read in your foldable what it says about a mid-segment. Look at the picture, read what you wrote down about a mid-segment, nice and quietly, ready, go.
Okay, good for
So once again, I'm going to ask you one more time. In your foldable, I want you to read the box that says mid-segment. What's on the inside? Look at the picture. This is your brand new 5-1 foldable. Read it and look at the picture right now. Ready? Go. Okay, so in the mid-segment box in your folder, hey, I'm going to come around and ask you guys some questions on midpoint or a mid-segment. And so there's 3 big things about a mid-segment that I'm going to be looking for. So now that you've already read about it on your foldable, I want you to take 30 seconds, talk with your neighbor about it really quick. What are those 3 big things we know about a mid-segment? Talk with your neighbor about it. Ready? Go.
Half of the side parallel. The next 3 points of the 2 sides.
parallel.
And
it connects the 2
Ooh.
Woo! Parallel to the third side.
Off my foldable, homeboy.
I will be getting out my magic seating chart to call on some people. So if you would please make sure that your neighbor has an answer to What are those 3 important things we know about mid-segments? You have 10 more seconds to make sure your neighbor has an answer. 10 more seconds, 10 more seconds.
I'll let you start the game.
Make sure your neighbor has an answer.
If you let me have that, I'll let you start.
Alright, here we go. Oh, happy seeing card. Jillian, what's one thing we know about a there you are, mid-segment.
I wasn't here, so I don't know.
Oh, you weren't
Connects
here.
the two things.
Oh, what 2 things does it connect?
The two sides.
No.
What's special about the spots on the 2 sides? Somebody help her out, she's gone.
3 points.
So they're the midpoints. Very good. Alright, good. So it connects the midpoints of the 2 sides. Good observation, Jillian, for not being here. That was really good. Yeah, so D and E up there, those guys are the midpoints of those 2 sides. So mid-segment connects the midpoints of 2 sides. Alright, oh, magic student chart. What else do we know about
She's peeking.
mid-segments? I'm not peeking. Hayden.
She moved her finger.
D is half of
A, C,
D, E is half of A, B. There it is. Very good. So he's half of the side he's not touching. So think of it. So it's half of the side it's
Roll.
parallel to, or you can think of it as half of the side that it's not touching. Good. So we know that it connects the midpoints of the 2 sides, and then it's half the size of the other one, and there's one thing left. Do you whisper it to your neighbor real quick, make sure they have an answer? I want to make sure everybody knows this class, so I need to know about it.
Oh, no, you're
Olivia.
But you don't think
So it connects the midpoints, it's half the size of the other side, and it's parallel to the side that it's not touching. Very good. So those are 3 important things about a mid-segment. It connects the midpoints, it's half the size of the 3rd side, and it's parallel to the 3rd side. In your notebook, real quick, in your notebook, I want you to write down what are those 3 things we just talked about. So this is your warm-up question for today. This should be in your foldable already. If it's not, you could write it there. Write down those 3 things we know about DE. You can do it right where you do your warm-up, or if you were gone and don't have it in your foldable, you could write them right there in your foldable. Josh, bad idea. You can write this in your notebook or on your foldable. So if it's already in your foldable, go on and add it to your notebook, just as a reminder. It's good for us to write things down. So we read about it, we talked about it, and now we're writing about it.
You don't want to make it cursive, see?
No. Focus. Hey, jump. Okay, other thing we talked about. All right. The other thing we talked about on Monday, and I know some of you guys were gone, so that's why we're kind of going over this again. We talked about slope and parallel lines. So go back to your foldable. Open up the slope part of your foldable, and take 30 seconds to read everything there is to read in your foldable about slope. So look through your foldable. Look at where it talks about slope. Read everything there is to read about slope in your foldable. Ready? Go. Read.
Not very nice.
Everything there is to read about slope.
Don't
Throw
people
up.
want to hear it.
Yes, I am.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please take 1 minute and talk with your neighbor. What are those things that we learned about parallel lines and slope? What did we learn about parallel lines and slope? Talk to your neighbor. I will be calling on people, but talk to your neighbor first. Ready, go. A little bit more.
Two lines are parallel.
I knew you were
I can't give it to you.
Because you looked at it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, listen please. What did you hear somebody say about slope?
Well,
Oh,
it's like rise over
I got
run.
Slope is rise over run. Good observation. Zach.
When two lines are not even parallel, they have the same slope.
Two lines are parallel, they have the same slope. Look at me real quick.
Yeah.
Look at me. Yeah, they have the same slant, right? They're slanted the same way. So if two lines are slanted the same way, and they always stay slanted the same way, then we say that they have the same slope. That's our mathy word for it. Good. So parallel lines, since they have the same slant to them, we're going to have the same slope. Very good. Anybody observe in your foldable, how do we figure out what slope is? Like when we have numbers on it?
Oh, I have the formula.
Yeah, what did you find? Yeah, what was the formula? Do you remember? Awesome. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please point to the blue poster that is located right back there?
Dude, you can.
Do you see it?
Make it small.
You're not really pointing. Good. Do you see that purple formula right there on the top?
Yeah,
What does it
it's
say?
kind of hard to see. But
Y2 minus y1 over x minus x1. Yeah, it's rise over run. Has anybody heard of rise over run before? Yeah, of course we have, okay? Rise talks about up and down. Run talks about left and right. So our slope then is just putting those two things together because slant talks about how far up and down and left and right a line actually goes. So there's our slope. Good. So we just talked about, and thank you, Zach, for mentioning this, that when two lines are parallel, I can give some math evidence to show that those two lines are parallel. Throughout Unit 5, we're going to do less picture evidence, and we're going to start to get some math evidence in there, okay? So we're going to start to use things like slope and distance and midpoint to actually prove some things, to give us some numbers and some hard, concrete math evidence to prove that things are true. Yes, Josh?
I'm gonna get the test.
Not right now. Thank you for asking.
Are they ready?
All right, so when I look at giving evidence to prove that my two lines are parallel, I know that when they're parallel, they're going to have the same slope. All right, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to use my y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and I'm going to prove whether or not the blue line and his other red line are parallel to each other. So grab your pencils, and you might want your calculator. It's up to you. We're going to split this up a little bit. Ooh, mental high five. Do you remember what the letter M means in math land? So, very good. All right. Girls, I need your attention. Thanks. On the right-hand side of the room, or your left, my right, I want you guys to calculate the slope of AB. Okay, because we're trying to see whether or not the blue line, and then I'll make him green. I want to know whether or not they're parallel, boys. Thank you. They look awfully parallel, but I need math evidence. I need that hard, concrete evidence to make it work. And so we're going to find the slope of AB. We're also going to find the slope of DE. And I want you guys on this half of the room to find the slope of AB. And you guys find the slope of DE on your papers. Take your 10 seconds to label your points, x1, y1, and x2 and y2. It'll really save you the headache of trying to figure out who goes where.
Bet you your trumpet.
And, hey, does it matter who's the first x and y and who's the second x and y? It doesn't. Okay? You get to decide. So I'll just call him x1 and y1, and I'll call him x2 and y2. And then people on the green line on AB, same thing. Doesn't matter who's x and y, or who's the first x and y, who's the second x and y. Get those calculators out, and let's do some math. I'm going to wait until you've started it on your paper before I start to write it on the board, because I don't want you to just copy my work down. I want you guys to think through the problem. You're going to explain it. Can you do it in taller? That'd be great. You already, it's 6.
Oh, called it.
And
No.
Says the guy who said it was positive.
I said, why do you want to sit by each other?
Dude, you argued with us that it was negative. Well, I mean, that was positive. We told you it was negative.
That is indeed the same.
Oh no!
I'm gonna explode.
The slopes aren't the same thing. Oh,
but they are.
shucks.
We broke it.
Didn't finish KB. Simplify it.
Wait, so what is 6 divided by 2?
-1. -2.
-3.
You need to shot this.
There it is, Josh. Good job. Yeah.
I'm trying to tell you.
I just, one of the things I wanted you to observe about this question is that if you did your math, and oh no, I got -3/1 and then I got -6/2, you might think that you did it wrong because it didn't come out to be the same in parallel. Okay, but the truth is, -6/2 is really 3/1. Will you talk with your neighbor, please, real quick? I want to make sure everybody knows this. Ready? Turn to your neighbor. Will you talk with your neighbor? Why are those really the same slopes? Talk with your neighbor about that. Ready? Go.
Because 2 goes into 3. 6.
Jump off the bridge.
I don't think you were about it.
Like 5th grade.
When I go, it's the biggest thing I ever saw.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Only if you absolutely have to.
I drank like 4 bottles of water.
Fantastic. Make sure you take a holiday.
I'm sorry. If you want, I'll come on this week.
Okay, last part of our question. Girls, I need your attention, please. Thank you. All right, so we already talked about this. There's 3 things that prove that it's a mid-segment. Connects the midpoints. Girls, connects the midpoints. He's got to be parallel, so blue and green have to be parallel. Did we just prove that they're parallel?
Yes.
How do we prove that they were parallel? We showed what about them?
Slope. The slope.
They had, what about their slopes? Sorry.
They're equal.
Equal slopes, they're the same slopes, okay, so they slanted the same way. And then, what was that other thing? How big was he compared to the other side? He was half, okay, so we have to prove that he's half the other side. And here's, we're not gonna do that, it would take a little bit too much time that we have. We will do it later, but I just wanted to point out to you then that I would have to use the distance formula. Distance tells me how long something is. I would use the distance formula on blue and the distance formula on green, and I would give that mathematical evidence. I would prove to the reader that one was really half of the other one, okay? Yeah, we're gonna do that just in just a second. Yep, so I would have to, so I would just use the distance formula. That would be the last step of this. Hey, guess what? Question number 1 on your test is this question. Personally, I think it's one of the hardest questions on your test. But I think once we understand, we know what a mid-segment is, we know what connects the midpoints, we know that the slopes have to be the same, we know that it has to be half the distance of the other one. The rest of it's just a little bit mathy. We're going to be okay. Math is not that bad. Josh is back, you may go. Alright folks, we basically added this and this one on our foldables last week. If you were gone on Monday, make sure you connect with your neighbor and tell your neighbor thank you for that information. One thing I do think we need to add to the back of your foldables is that distance formula and midpoint formula. So these 2 guys are right there. I think my handwriting is nice enough in that picture that you'll be able to see things okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you should have a triangle drawn on your paper right now, please. I would like to see these triangles on your paper. Listen to me real quick, please. It is to your benefit to read the question and do what it says on your own, because then you are practicing it and you are understanding what the instructions are saying, as opposed to me just giving you that information. So take a minute, if you haven't done so yet. Problem number 1 is right there. I want you to read it, and then in question 13, there's a big blank spot on your paper. You draw a triangle, you label your triangle, and you do what your instructions have to say. They don't have to be perfect, but you're going to want to try and get close. And I'm not going to do mine until I see that you started yours. It's okay for your triangle to be different than mine. Totally okay for your triangle to be different than my triangle. Back of the first page of your notes. Good job. Tiffany, you with us? What about your backpack wall? I can't see your face. Just slide your backpack wall that way.
Finish it, Josh.
Yours can be labeled different than mine, so don't stress out.
He did.
Yeah, go ahead.
Josh,
What?
please do not play with your water bottle.
Oh, the staple?
That was me.
Yes.
I don't know.
That was me.
You cyber? That was Tyler.
That doesn't work?
I apologize. Tyler, please do not play with your water bottle. Okay. I'm going to show you something amazing. Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you watching the board?
Good job.
Okay, pencils down, eyes on the board, because you did this already, so ready? Okay. If A is the midpoint, and C is a midpoint, we would call A mid-segment. Very good. So AC would be a mid-segment, right? So I know a couple things, right? Josh and Tyler, look at the screen, please.
Okay.
I know a couple things. In terms of him being parallel, what side is he parallel to? Yeah, YZ. And I'm not perfect right here, but it looks pretty darn close to me. So he's parallel to YZ, and look what happens. Look how long he is.
Oh, snap.
That's not parallel.
Again, Josh, I understand my drawing's not perfect, I didn't measure them, but we're gonna, for the example, say that it works, okay? Yeah, look, right here he fits right in there from Y to B. Will you talk with your neighbors just real quick? Why would AC be the same length as YB? Why would AC, oh, this just hint, clue, might be a test question. Why would AC be the same length as YB? Talk with your neighbor about that. Ready, set, go. I know that it's half of YZ, and I feel it's like midpoint of
What did you think? What did she do? She just said that you know.
line, so then YB and AC will be the same length. I don't think you all talk to your neighbors.
I
Here's
talked
the
to my
thing,
neighbors.
Do you have any witnesses?
AC would be parallel to YZ. See?
Oh, AC, I thought we were doing like the first one, 14.
What if you were just like doing it in your car?
Oh, no, sorry. I just think when I was
You're like, what
looking
are
at.
you doing back there, Dad?
Nothing. Leave me alone.
Alright, so look up here again, please.
We're
Look,
like in the room.
look at the board. So he would be the same length as YB, because who is B on this line? He's the
Midpoint.
midpoint. And what's the midpoint do to a line?
Doesn't have
It's
it's
B.
equal parts. I said
Okay,
first.
so these parts have been cut in half, so from Y to B is half of YZ. Guess who else is half of YZ? The
AC.
mid-segment. Okay, awesome. Hey, guess what? That works for all of these guys. Look, see? Half,
Oh my gosh.
okay, and this guy should work as well.
Whoa.
I didn't even notice that.
Whoa.
Can I show you something else that's cool?
Whoa.
Okay, this is it. Oops, that's the wrong one.
Gee. You know that CB works with XA? Dang.
Okay, so here's my triangle, right? Again, not perfect, sorry, it's not lined up, right? This is so cool, why isn't it working?
Hey,
There he is, okay, watch. Computers are cool and a pain in the butt. Are you watching? Watching? Are you watching?
Yeah.
Here's my triangle from the middle, right? Look at this. It's amazing. Whoa bam.
well, I knew that.
Look at that. Whoa bam. And I know that line's in the wrong spot, but he works too. Isn't that cool? So because he's half, he does a lot of cool things, alright? It produces a lot of congruent triangles. It produces a lot of things that turn out to be the same length. So real quick on your paper, right there where you answer question 14. I have a little trick for question 14 because sometimes I have a hard time seeing this. Look at me. Josh, look at me. If I have a hard time knowing who AB is parallel to, Sometimes I'll put my pencil on AB, and then I'll slide it up to the other side. It'll help me see that he's parallel to X on B.
That idea.
So answer question 14 on your paper real quick, please. I didn't see it on your papers.
Never gave me my notepad.
So CB is parallel to
Why are you
XY.
always up? But you're always saying that.
It could be, yep.
Yeah, no, that's just like that.
Yeah, because they're really the same
He
line.
gets up more than me.
Oh, I don't know why you're putting yourself away. There's 2 minutes left.
Okay.
Well, you have a ticket out the door you can clear, so. You gotta do problem 2 before you leave. You got a minute and a half. Come on, hurry, hurry, hurry. Read problem number 2 with your neighbor. You'll get the first 2 pretty quickly. The second 2 will take a second. Read your instructions. Look at your picture. I like to write on my picture. It really helps me out sometimes. We're still doing good. We still have time. You can talk about it with your
What do you
neighbor.
think you
That's
are?
fine.
Yeah, throw it. It's not a mission.
I was thinking of throw it.
Boys, come on, finish up.
I already got it.
I just want to know like their number value, like how long are they?
Get it down. Just let me know.
So DC right here, he's the same as who? AD, so he's also going to be 6. And AC, where's AC? A to C, oh, so that would be 12. And then did you see EF? EF is also 6. Good job. Did you get AB?
AB is 15.
15. Yes, good job, you guys. Again, this is 7.5. So that's 7.5. This is 7.5. And it's 15. You guys are good.
Yeah.
That's your
That's you up. Maybe NFL 14.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, good job today. I will see you all soon.
I'll play with Detroit.